So I know that I ditched my MAGA hat last month over onto my Big Mad video, and so a lot of you are going to be saying to me, Atticus the Death Metaller, you don't have a hat going on in your life. What are you going to have next for your gimmick? Well, I came up with the second best thing, and the second best thing to piss all y'all off. For now on, this is going to be my reoccurring thing every time I have a video on this channel, in honor of our Lord and Savior, Varg Vikernes. So now that all of you guys are ring at the comments, the live comment section, let's begin the video.
I am hate. When you look at me, you look at hate.
When I look at you, I look at hate.
When you look at me, you know what hate is.
Hey everybody, this is Atticus the Death Metaller, and welcome to another longly awaited episode on the TheDeathMetaller Reviews. And here in this episode, we are going to be reviewing one of my favorite bands, Katatonia, and their latest masterpiece, City Burials. And with that said, with every other TheDeathMetaller Reviews episode, let's do a little history and bio of the band. Now shall we? There are a lot of bands I consider to be some of my favorites. Cannibal Corpse, Slipknot, Behemoth, Amorphous, Dimmu Borgir, Whitechapel, etc. But none can compare to the absolute emotional feels experience when it comes to the very band on this episode, Katatonia. Katatonia are a progressive metal band formed in Stockholm, Sweden in 1991 by vocalist Jonas Rensk and guitarist Anders Nyström. The band started as a studio-only project for the duo as an outlet for the band's love of death metal, but overall in their career changed their style to progressive metal. Nyström summarized their style in an interview saying, "Yeah, sure, we see ourselves as a metal band, but without boundaries and limitations to our sound. We do not necessarily belong to a certain subgenre within metal. We're just playing dark and heavy music and keep an open mind to evolve and being true to ourselves. I'm proud to say that I believe Katatonia sounds like no other band. We have eloquently avoided the gothic metal genre most bands tend to fall in when changing their sound from doom/death metal to something more rocking and melodic. We're leaning towards more of a contemporary alternative sound, free of all cheese and cliches." He also said the following on Jonas Rensk's style of singing, saying, "Well, it must be hard sometimes for Jonas to sing his heart out with lyrics referring to personal dark and depressive matters, and at the same time also be accused of being a reluctant frontman. I actually think much of the stuff he sings about doesn't go in hand with running around on stage, throwing horns and smiling and firing up the audience. We're not an energetic power metal band. I think the withdrawn and shy aura actually does more justice to the contempt of our songs than going wild, but we have some songs mainly on the two list albums that don't really fall into the doom and gloom category, but are still dark, and there the more aggressive approach fits better. Starting their style from a studio project to death metal to an ungodly emotional driven band that pours your soul out, you can definitely tell that this band plays a very true special place in my heart." And with that said, let us begin our review of City Burials. City Burials was produced none other by vocalist Jonas Rensk and lead guitarist Anders Nyström. Now, you all know, without a doubt, when every time I do talk about the producers of said album, that I absolutely respect the very band members that produce their own craft. And it has shown time and time and time again that this band really knows how to produce their own craft, especially with like the past two albums they've made over the past decade. Dead End Kings, which is pretty much, in my opinion, Katatonia's magnum opus of all their discography, and their 2016 release, The Fall of Hearts. And that really just goes to show that this band really knows how to make a really damn good release. And City Burials, I think, for this upcoming new decade, is another of one of their magnum opuses. And I just have to really bring out the big question over here. This is, a question I have to ask myself over to here. Does it really compare to my favorite album of Katatonia, Dead End Kings? And all I just gotta say, Dead End Kings is one of my favorite albums off of this band. Like, with the other releases of Katatonia, I didn't really mind. I do like the two releases, The Great Cold Distance and Night is a New Day. Obviously, Night is a New Day that really got me into Katatonia in the first place. But Dead End Kings was the album that really made me fall in love with this band in 2012. Right when I saw the 2011 American remake of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it made me think of a lot of scenes of that film while listening to Dead End Kings. And so it really strengthened my absolute love for this band and that album of theirs. Also, Dead End Kings was basically a coping album when I lost my uncle due to cirrhosis and, you know, all that stuff with alcoholism during that time in 2013. But all that aside, does City Burials absolutely destroy Dead End Kings? All I gotta say is that it's hard for me to decide because I have absolutely loved Dead End Kings since 2012 and continue to still love that absolute masterpiece of a release that Katatonia made. But City Burials ranks all the way fucking up there. But the difference is that I loved the entire album off of Dead End Kings. There's a lot of memorable songs off of that album, but City Burials, I've only chosen a couple of songs that I really loved, but for City Burials, I really did love most of the handful of songs that I chose for this reviews. It almost looks like that when it came to the drum engineering of this album, it almost sounded like Jacob Henson was in the behind the scenes with the drumming. It makes it even more special that it was Jonas Rensk and Anders Nystrom who were behind the absolute production of this album, along with the other two releases of the 2010s, which just shows how well produced and how well that they know how to make a damn good album. And you know me, I love it when bands produce their own albums, their own craft. It makes it a lot more special to me when it comes to a death metal reviews episode. So really, this is a band that is very self-reliant, and there's no problem with hiring a producer. Like, I have no problem with that, especially when it came to like the last release with Suicide Silence that I talked about on this series. But for real, obviously for real, this album is just fucking amazing. One of my favorite releases of 2020 so far, and how fucking absolutely crazy this year has been. So, aside from all that, let us begin the review of the songs that I've chose for this album. Now shall we? The first track on this list is Heart Set to Divide. Now this is obviously the beginning track of this album, and the first portion of this song starts very calm and then off onto the usual beat to it. But the beginning lets you know that this is a long, arduous, depressive, and emotional journey throughout this 12-track album. I really like this track. It really shows the beginning. It's like the beginning of this journey on to the latest Katatonia release, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So have a listen right here, folks.
I see the beast laying waste. I see his wings keep unfolding. His name strewn across the sky and reflected on the world.
The next track on this list is Behind the Blood. It is considered one of my favorite tracks off of this album. The first thing I have to really say about this track is the solos that Anders Nystrom puts out there at the beginning and the second portion of the second verse of the song. I gotta say, it is really, really slapping. But I also really do love the chorus of this track. And it almost makes me feel like when I'm listening to this track, it makes me feel like I'm looking at a detective crime anime intro and stuff. I mean, I watch a little bit of anime here and there. I'm not like a raging fucking weeaboo here and there, but I occasionally like some anime time to time. But that song gives me the vibes of like fucking, a anime mystery series. So have a listen here, folks.
Such a pain spark, such a long wait before you would let me know, before you would bless me with your thunder.
The next track on this list is Lacquer, and it was actually the first single of City Burials that I listened to at early 2020 when things were fucking normal. When I saw that there was a new single of a new album during that time when Katatonia announced that, yeah, we're gonna release a new album, I automatically listened to it when I was on my break from work, and my god, I fucking loved it. Now, when I showed this to a bunch of my friends on Instagram and on Facebook, they really did not like it. Now, I will indeed say this. Like, I think the reason why a lot of my friends didn't like it, it didn't add the guitar, bass, and drums onto it. It was mostly poppy and orchestra related with Giannis Rensk's vocals going on. And I can understand that some people did not like it. They'd expect like the traditional, typical Katatonia vibe with every song. But you have to understand, when you bring out like the same thing over and over and over again, it gets a little bit tiring. Like coming from a guy that loves Cannibal Corpse, even though I love Cannibal Corpse, it kind of gets a little bit tiring listening to the same shit over and over and over again. And when you spice things a little bit up, change it, it works for you or it doesn't work for you. And for Katatonia's case, I fucking loved this song. And it showed the potential, the absolute high potential that Giannis Rensk can do with his vocal capability. And I was like crying in the inside. This was just absolutely fucking beautiful. I think this is like the one song of Katatonia with Giannis Rensk on vocals. It is like his absolute magnum opus when it comes to his vocal capabilities. I fucking loved it. Have a listen. The next song on our list is Rain, and I gotta say it's one of the aggressive tracks off of City Burials. And why do I say that? Because it has that death metal, Swedish death metal vibe onto this song with a little bit of blues at the beginning of the track, the blue riffs that go on at the beginning of this song. But part of me really does believe that I really would have loved it a bit more if they actually had Nick Holmes onto the chorus of the lyrics of this song. Now, if all of you guys don't know what I'm talking about, basically some of the members of Katatonia are also members of another band called Bloodbath, which, you know, their current vocalist is actually Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I fucking loved his style of vocals on Grand Morbid Funeral, which was a 2014 of Bloodbath, and their current release as of going right now. But I also did like Mikael Ackerfeldt and Peter Taktrin, you know, the two previous vocalists off of Bloodbath. But it would have been really cool if they had Nick Holmes do his growls or special guest onto this song. That is like my only criticism I got right there, but it's like one of those, you know, songs that has a Katatonia vibe, but like has the death metal aggression onto it, which I did like, and perfectly balanced as it should be, as Thanos always said. I loved this track, really. Have a listen. The next track on our list is The Winter of Our Passing. Now this is one of 3 of my favorite tracks off of this album. One of them being Behind the Blood, and the third one being the next track after reviewing The Winter of Our Passing. Now, why do I say it's one of my favorites off of this album? I will say it has some comparison to that of a Dead End King song that I absolutely loved, The Racing Heart, which I dedicated to my late uncle who died in 2013. And I would constantly play the song, constantly thinking about him. And it was, you know, a very, very sad and somber song that basically was just my way of coping of his death. And seeing The Winter of Our Passing, it's like a little bit of lightheaded, a lightheaded song, like a light, you know, type of vibe that I kind of got going on, because I've experienced, you know, a couple of deaths around the past decade, and it seems like it's like, yeah, I've seen all this death go around and pass throughout my life, and it feels like that I've, you know, coped pretty much well with all the death that surrounded and stuff. I mean, I've experienced the death of my cousin, I've experienced the death of my uncle, and I've experienced the death of my friend Big Nick, whom I sorely miss every single day. I love you, Big Nick. I hope you are pouring Faygo out for me up in the great heavens above. But this is basically, in my personal opinion, like, this song is basically like, I've experienced death, and someone who's not handling death that well, I can help them out through the coping and stuff. But in truth, nobody is never ready when it comes to death. I mean, we all lose someone and it affects us greatly, but somehow throughout my experience on death, it kind of made me as like a stronger person when it came to the grieving process, because throughout, you know, those deaths that I've experienced, I didn't handle the grieving process that well, and it sucks. It really sucks. You know, the 5 stages of grieving or something, as they always say and stuff. I hope I got the name right. That's just me rambling, but have a listen here. The next song on our list is number 3 of my 3 favorite tracks off of City Burials, Vanishers. Now, Vanishers features special guest Anne Benhad of Full of Keys, and it makes me, the song is sort of like in comparison to another one of my favorite songs off of Dead End Kings. The one you are looking for is Not Here, which features the female vocalist Selge Vögland. I hope I pronounced it right. Please let me know in the comments if I fucked up. You know how I am, being an ignorant fucking American fuck. Alright. I'm calm. I'm calm. I'm calm. Cabin fever. It does that to ya. But aside from all that, I consider this song, in my opinion, sort of a very nice, atmospheric love song, to say the least. I think it's like a very nice love song, but here I have done my research upon this song, and an interview done by Jonas Rensk talking about the production of the song Vanishers, which I'll read right here. The song is very electronic, and it's kind of a calm song, very atmospheric. I was playing the music for guitarist Anders Nystrom, and he said it sounds like there's a lot of space for something different to happen here. So he came up with the idea that we should ask Anne Benhad from Full of Keys to be on it. She's been a favorite singer of me and Anders for some time now. So we sent her my demo, and she was straight into the idea of doing it. She totally got the vibe of the song instantly, and I think the final result is perfect. So when you actually have people that you actually do admire, and not only you vibe with very quickly, and then it makes this sort of song perfect with the demo, it really makes stuff like this absolutely fucking perfect, which honestly to me, when it comes to perfect chemistry with most of the artists that you absolutely love, I mean, we all know that the Signal Fire off the latest Killswitch Engage album, which actually featured Jesse Leach and Howard Jones together, was just fucking perfect, and it put the whole argument of which Killswitch Engage vocalist was better or the other. The final nail onto the argument has been put in the coffin because both are amazing. But aside from all that, when it comes to doing collaborations with other people with your work and stuff, and then you find the perfect niche, and then when you actually have artists that are like, I know what to fucking do, that song is perfect. And when you have artists like that know what to do with that, you got yourself a really good song in the making, which is this. And again, this is like basically, in my opinion, certain girls that are like out of the country, and then, you know, I want to be with them, but it's like, damn it, the fucking COVID is around, and I can't travel around because of fucking goddamn dumbasses that are fucking up this country, and fucking everyone around the fucking world are fucking it all over for us. And it's like, okay, another tangent for another time. Just roll it, just fucking roll it. And now we reach to our final track of this review, City Glaciers. I really do love the very intro of the song, which has a very country, bluesy vibe at the very beginning portion of the song. It makes me think a little bit of The Last of Us. Those of you who are fans of The Last of Us, and of course, who still play Part 2, which is like a fucking disaster from what I've heard. Like, I've seen the gameplay, it's fucking brilliant, but the story, oh god. Don't get me started on that. That's another can of worms I do not want to open, so I don't want to go onto that shit. But aside from all that, Giannis Rensk actually did talk about this song, which I will read right now. The song is probably the first song I started writing after the release of the previous album, so it has a little bit of that style. It's a little bit more progressive maybe, like the opening track. It's kind of an adventurous song with a lot of layers of guitars, keyboards, and vocals. Lyrically, it's about being in a relationship or friendship for a long time, and maybe you don't see a reason to go on. You're fed up with someone basically, but you also know subconsciously that things will eventually change for the better, and the song is just about that wait, I would say. And you know, that is a very perfect analogy. In my personal opinion, the song is basically this entire year, that this whole dumpster fire of year that's going on. Like, I mean, the Australian fires, almost us going into war with Iran, then the whole nationwide pandemic, and then, you know, the Great Rebellion, aka the nationwide BLM riots, and then more COVID cases, and then the big boom in Beirut, and it's like we got September, October, November, December to look forward to, and we're just like, oh god, what do we got next over to 2020? That's all I gotta say. But I just know that it will pass, and this song definitely is a memoir that's like, as much as bad things will get, I mean, later on in life, we'll be looking at this and be like, yeah, I fucking survived 2020. As long as we get our shit together, cull the spread of the coronas, which I highly fucking doubt, and then we get the Bill Gates 666 vaccine to where we get back to our normal lives so I can actually get back to being employed and go to shows and actually travel around the world, you know, mostly Canada and Norway and shit. I just want to have a fucking normal life, for fucking Christ's sake, so please wear a fucking goddamn mask for Christ's sakes. Okay, I gotta stop the tangents. I gotta fucking stop the fucking tangents, oh my god. Dude, okay, I promise. Okay, I'm done. Listen to this song.
Read my lips long, fill your lungs with words, lest we forget to explore.
City Burials, I will indeed say, is a huge competitor against their 2012 release, Dead End Kings. Will I say that it is the album that will beat Dead End Kings? No. They're both equal. perfectly balanced, as Thanos would say. But I will say that City Burials has a lot more depth and a lot more maturity than that of Dead End Kings. But still, when it came to one of the two albums that has my heart the most, it is obviously Dead End Kings. But I will say City Burials is just another great fucking masterpiece of this band. And I hope that they bring out more amazing work on this next decade to come. I will indeed say this was an amazing album to listen to throughout this absolute crazy ass pandemic going on. City Burials, without a doubt, gets a 10 out of 10 for this review. So, what'd you guys think about this review? Do you like City Burials or do you dislike City Burials? Do you think it is better than Dead End Kings, or do you still think that Dead End Kings is the greatest Katatonia album ever fucking made? Leave it down in the comments below, and stay tuned for more videos. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am Atticus, the Death Metaller. Hope you like this video, subscribe to my channel, links are down in the description below. Keep it metal, and have an excellent and blessed day, y'all. Prost.